Rachmaninoff wrote some of the darkest, most luscious, and most powerful music you will ever experience. His second piano concerto is a masterpiece, filled with brooding orchestral figures and virtuosic piano passages that depict often violent outbursts of emotion. Through this music, he tells a harrowing story of crisis and personal transformation, and he evokes powerful images of love and redemption. I remember listening to it for the first time and being absolutely floored by some of the most soaring and passionate melodies I had ever heard. But what shocked me even more was the fact that Rachmaninoff's music was so underappreciated during his lifetime. That's why I'm on a mission to change that and show you why you need to experience Rachmaninoff's music and how his music can impact your life. So, let's start at the beginning. I'm excited to partner with Apple for this video to present Apple Music Classical, the new streaming service for classical music. Whether you're new to classical or a seasoned listener, you can use the tailored playlists, expert recommendations, and companion guides to take you on your classical journey. Why not start with the Rachmaninoff Essentials playlist today? This app makes exploring the world of classical music accessible, immersive, and hugely enjoyable. It has the world's largest classical music catalogue, a powerful search designed specifically for classical nuances, and the highest audio quality, with options for immersive spatial audio in Dolby Atmos. And all of it is included with your Apple Music subscription. So click the link below to learn more about Apple Music Classical. Rachmaninoff was born on April 1st, 1873, into a wealthy family near the city of Novgorod. Despite a privileged upbringing, Rachmaninoff's childhood was troubled. The devastating loss of his older sister Yelena and his parents' divorce took a toll on the young composer. He was very reserved. A fellow student noted there was no one with whom he could be said to be fraternal. He was quite shy. But despite these challenges, Rachmaninoff's musical talent would soon shine through and captivate the world. His talent was undeniable from a young age, and at just 14 years old, he was enrolled at the prestigious Moscow Conservatory to study piano, harmony, and composition. Moscow was a melting pot of musical styles where the elegant sounds of Western music would collide with the rich, exotic flavors of Russian orchestral and folk music. Rachmaninoff was constantly soaking up these diverse influences, attending concerts and opera houses, and growing as a musician with each experience. You can see these influences in many of his works, such as his first piano concerto, which borrows a lot of its underlying structure from Grieg's Piano Concerto. But it was Tchaikovsky who was Rachmaninoff's greatest influence. Rachmaninoff idolized him, and when the older composer heard Rachmaninoff perform at an exam, he said, "For him, I predict a great future." But as Rachmaninoff's reputation rapidly grew, problems piled up in his personal life. His father gambled away their family fortune, and financial difficulties would plague him for much of his life. He was subject to great bouts of depression, loneliness, and melancholy, feelings that often crept into his music. Take his Prelude in C-sharp minor. This piece begins with a haunting three-note motif. A shadow that lingers, filling you with hopelessness and despair, as if foretelling your impending doom. A contrasting, uneasy melody follows, like an inner voice stumbling over itself, offering glimpses of hope. As the second section unfolds, the tempo accelerates. Frustration and anger take hold. You ask why destiny has treated you so cruelly. Why must you suffer in its bondage? Finally, The familiar three-note motif returns, but this time in a powerful fortissimo. The music then begins to die down, fading to a resigned whisper. It's over, and you can't escape your fate. Death is another major theme that resonates throughout Rachmaninoff's music. He often weaved the Dies Irae melody into his compositions, a Latin chant portraying the Day of Wrath, which is frequently heard in funeral masses. One such work that masterfully incorporates the Dies Irae is The Isle of the Dead, a symphonic poem inspired by a black and white photo of this painting by Arnold Böcklin. This piece captures an unparalleled sense of dread and foreboding, demonstrating Rachmaninoff's profound contemplation of mortality. This is part of what makes his music so compelling. It's not just the complexity of emotion, but the way his compositions invite you to explore the depths of the human experience, from the despair of heartache to the inevitability of death. But what Rachmaninoff is best known for is his piano concertos, especially his second piano concerto. To understand the sheer emotional depth of this work, we must delve into the story behind its creation. After his graduation, Rachmaninoff embarked on composing his first symphony. The process proved slow and challenging as self-doubt crept in. But despite this struggle, he held high hopes for his success. Fate had other plans. The premiere was a total disaster. The performance was poorly rehearsed, totally flat, emotionless, and the conductor seemed to be drunk on stage. Devastated, Rachmaninoff hid behind the stairs to the balcony, his fists pressed against his ears, and he later wandered aimlessly through the streets in despair. It destroyed him. The critics were merciless. The shame that he endured left him almost unable to compose. For 3 agonizing years, he would try to write something down, anything, but it was impossible. His creative spirit had been shattered. In a desperate attempt to overcome his creative block, Rachmaninoff sought help from the psychiatrist Nikolai Dahl and underwent extensive hypnotherapy. The result was his triumphant second piano concerto. Which can be interpreted as a reflection of his battle with depression and composition. The concerto begins with these detached, desolate chords, played over a subdominant pedal, its tone echoing the torment Rachmaninoff felt after his first symphony's failure. Then we hear this heavy, oppressive theme, played by the lower strings, accompanied by restless piano arpeggios, creating a sense of tireless searching. The second theme, let's call it Rachmaninoff's theme, is a beautiful melody which weaves itself throughout the whole concerto, uniting its movements. Later, we hear this theme being played over and over, as if striving to rise above its limitations. The concerto takes listeners on a journey from resigned acceptance in the second movement to renewed strength in the third. In its final climax, Rachmaninoff's theme re-emerges triumphantly, signaling the end of his internal struggle and a return to normal life. This concerto, dedicated to his therapist Dahl, rekindled public interest in Rachmaninoff's works and reignited his career. If you choose to listen to just one of Rachmaninoff's compositions, then make it this one. It showcases his full range of talent: colourful and lush orchestration, harmonic depth, virtuosic piano passages, unforgettable melodies, orientalism, expressiveness, and harmonic development. The Second Piano Concerto is perhaps the ultimate culmination of Rachmaninoff's abilities as both a composer and a pianist. Rachmaninoff continued to explore these various elements in works such as his Second Symphony, his Third Piano Concerto, and his choral symphony, The Bells. Although we can't cover them all in this video, there are other masterpieces such as his Rhapsody on a Theme of Paganini and his Cello Sonata that are definitely worth discovering. The early 1900s marked some of his happiest years. He married his cousin, Natalia Satina, with whom he had 2 daughters, and he toured extensively throughout the West. Sadly, the Great War brought an end to these prosperous times. As the pre-war world crumbled, Rachmaninoff retreated to his Russian estate, where he composed his All-Night Vigil. This work extensively features Slavic chant with the deep richness of Russian octavists, that is ultra-low singers, pitted against the angelic sounds of sopranos and tenors. This mournful refuge against the horrors of the First World War marked the end of an era, as the performance of religious music would soon be banned by the Soviet Union following the Russian Revolution. Suspicious of the new Soviet regime, Rachmaninoff fled with his family in 1917, eventually settling in the United States, never to return to Russia. Having lost almost everything, he abandoned composition for years, focusing on providing for his family as a concert pianist. Yet, deep within, he yearned for Russia and its old way of life. He later lamented, "For when I left Russia, I left behind my desire to compose. Losing my country, I lost myself also." Between his exile in 1917 and his death in 1942, Rachmaninoff would only complete 6 major works. The Symphonic Dances was the last of these compositions. Rachmaninoff knew that this would be his final work. It's filled with references to the various pieces he composed over his career. Its final climax features a bombastic rendition of the all-too-familiar Dies Irae theme. But this time, it's overpowered by a melody from the All-Night Vigil, representing resurrection and the ultimate triumph of life over death. At last, the death motive was vanquished. Upon completion, Rachmaninoff wrote on the manuscript's last page, "I thank thee, Lord." He would die 3 years later from aggressive melanoma. Rachmaninoff's unwavering commitment to the romanticism of Tchaikovsky, Chopin, and Liszt left some to label him as the last romantic. While he wasn't the final composer to embrace the romantic style, there is truth in this title. He pushed romanticism to its limits, experimenting with ever more daring chromaticism while remaining true to the essence of romanticism. Just as Mahler was the last in the lineage of great romantic symphonic writers, Rachmaninoff represented the final chapter of superstar romantic piano virtuosos. His music stands as a testament to the piano's expressive capabilities, an instrument that would gradually lose its predominant place in the 20th century. He once wrote, "Melodic inventiveness in the highest meaning of this word is the main life goal of a composer. And oh, how many great melodies he left us."